So I'm going to show you how to create your own 3D models or use and modify pre-existing models and then get them 3D printed and delivered right to your door. Just like image files, we have 3D object files, usually with the suffix .stl or .obj as opposed to .jpeg or .png for images. How do we get a 3D object file in order to give it to a 3D printer? Well, we can either download existing, files from a website. You can say, oh, is there a Lamborghini object file or something like that? For example, if we go to turbosquid.com, which is like a not that sketchy website where they have a lot of different 3D models, you can find objects like, cars, light bulbs, iPhone models, and these kinds of things. And these are all just object files. You could download them exactly like an image, and it's all free. Although sometimes they will charge you. But what I'm interested in is designing my own. So one place where you can go do that is tinkercad.com. You can just go there and create an account and then start messing around with building your own 3D objects. So how do Photoshop or Microsoft Paint or whatever is a relatively simple program because like you're just kind of drawing on an image. But how do you draw in 3D, right? If I'm sketching something here, how do they, I'm looking at this through a 2D monitor. So the way we do it in Tinkercad at least is we combine and match different shapes. So for example, here there's a sphere by default, and we can take a cube and plop it down and then change its dimensions, right? But that's not so interesting because why would I want to print a cube? I mean, that's kind of boring. I could easily make that out of wood, right? Well, the nice thing about Tinkercad is what it lets you do is you can combine shapes to make something very interesting. So I'll give you an example right here. Let's say we have a cube, and then on this side, I want to attach a pyramid. Actually, no, I've got a better idea. Let's take a cylinder, and then if we want to kind of have it pointing outwards from the side, what we can do is we can, modify it. Oops, click the wrong button. Here we go. We can rotate the object. We can kind of put it onto another, and as far as Tinkercad is concerned, these are now, or these are ready to be fused. So maybe I want to make this cylinder a little smaller, make it like an oval, or actually I'll make it just a smaller little sphere, like so. Maybe move it up closer to the center of the cube, and then Tinkercad lets us combine these into a more complicated shape, like that, and voila. This is now, not that impressive. We can also, for example, put on this, one thing we can do is rather than stacking shapes, we can subtract shapes. So for example, I can flip this object, then I can shrink it like that. And kind of push it into the other object like that. Then press this button here, and then combine it with this shape, and voila. Now we've got some weird pyramid crevice. So I have no idea what the hell this is. Looks like some child's toy, but we can actually make practical things out of this. So let me jump out of this example and show you something else. When I was younger, I used to play with these like mini skateboards. We called them tech deck. We would like, do tricks with them with our fingers. Anyway, I always wanted like a little ramp or a rail or whatever to do tricks on. Um, and what I did when I was younger is actually made it out of wood, but that took a while. But now with 3D printing so accessible, this is something we can do easily on our computer. Disclaimer, I do not still play with tiny skateboards, but regardless, I already kind of reshaped and rotated everything the way I want it to be. So I have four cylinders and then just one big cube. So what we can do is maybe, uh, I can combine these two shapes to get maybe like a big letter B. Or what I'd rather do is I'd rather cut this oval away from the red cube, like so. I'll make it negative, then I'll combine them. Voila, now I have a ramp. And then I have two little towers here. And then I can plop a rail on them. Oops, it's a little off to the side. I might want to move these slightly farther out, like these little pegs, just because I really care about things being symmetrical. Oops, there we go. And boom. Okay, so now we have our ramp. And we can go ahead and export a object file. So we click this button, and then it even says for 3D printing, so we can do .stl. Sometimes a little bit easier to work with STL, but .obj is fine too. So we have ramp.stl. And then what we can do if we want it printed, so we can go to shapeways.com, spelled like so, and then we can click make a product, upload a 3D model, and then literally drag the file from our downloads into this little box. And loading, 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 loading. Voila. So here it is on Shapeways, and it's analyzing for a sec. It's going to figure out how much it would cost if we made it out of different materials, but this is roughly the scale. Okay. So here's how much it would cost if we made it out of all these different materials. So it happens to be small enough that I can make it out of aluminum, which would cost like 400 bucks. It's a little bit too big to make it out of gold. Usually, like the largest object you can make out of gold is like, a kind of a little big, kind of like large pendant you would wear around your necklace, but you couldn't build something this big out of gold. I mean, beyond that, you couldn't afford it, honestly. So, yeah, we can choose, say I choose aluminum, and then there's only one version of the finish, but sometimes something can have a matte finish or like a sort of a glossy finish. If you're making it out of like ceramic, then you can add to cart. Obviously, we wouldn't want to make something like this out of aluminum. We'd want to make it out of plastic. So you're probably still thinking, okay, 23 bucks, that's actually affordable, but it is still a little bit on the pricey side. I don't know if I would spend 23 bucks on this. Well, the nice thing about 3D printing is the price comes purely from the amount of material in it. That's very special because everything else, like anything made out of wood or made out of metal, usually the price is partially determined by how complex it is. But 3D printers don't care about how complex an object is, which means I could hypothetically just like make this whole object hollow on the inside, would be really nice. Like I would notice it, and this object would be significantly lighter because right now it's all solid. But if I hollow it out, I could probably get this whole thing down to like 4 or 5 bucks, and that's definitely cheaper than anything you're gonna get elsewhere. You still gotta pay like 5 bucks for shipping, but overall, 10 bucks for something like this, I wish I had this when I was 10. But this is kind of boring. Let's make something more interesting, or rather, let's take something more interesting. Uh, so if I go back to turbosquid.com, we can find a model here that we like. I'll take, for example, Baymax from Big Hero 6. Can download him. Do, 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 do. I was looking at a Lamborghini earlier. Download. It's not that big of a file. And here it is. Okay, so they have a .obj file. Here it is. And we can go back on Shapeways. Actually, better idea. So, we can kind of 3D print this and get a figurine, but what if my girlfriend is a big fan of Big Hero 6 and she wants kind of a Baymax necklace? Well, one thing we can do is we can go back to Tinkercad, click New Design, and then import our Baymax model. So import, and then we can drag and drop. I love drag and drop. It makes everything so much easier. Loading, loading, loading. Okay, voila. It's kind of like there's a lot of triangles in it, but usually when you 3D print it, it kind of gets smoothed out a little bit. Okay, now we want to maybe turn this into a pendant or a necklace. So one thing we can do is, I mean, literally drill a hole in it. Like, I guess I could have it 3D printed and then drill the hole, but that's not very elegant, right? So, and then I'd get like plastic dust everywhere. Here's what I prefer to do. I would prefer just literally drill a hole through it. Okay, I'm definitely going to need a smaller cylinder. Okay, I like that. I'm basically shooting it in the back of the head here. Uh, okay, seems good. And then kind of pull it right through. Boop. Make it negative, and then come merge it or group it with a big object, and voila. Okay, I was a little bit off center there. I don't think any woman would appreciate something like, a hole that's not in the center, but whatever. This will do. And trying to see if it goes, yep, it goes all the way through. Then we can export this. Okay, I didn't actually kept this random name generated. I should have named it Baymax Pendant, but whatever. Anyway, now I can drag and drop it from my downloads into Shapeways. Sorry, there's a lot of waiting with this, but okay, voila. Here it is. Got the little hole in it that you can kind of string a piece of thread through. And then, yeah, it's a little bit more of a complex shape, so this might take a minute. Okay, here we are. We can make it out of gold for 39,000. Oh, never mind. We can make it out of 18 karat gold. And this will set you back holy crap. That's a lot of money. Okay, definitely don't make, this is probably the worst object to make out of gold. For one, it's like completely solid in the middle. Like you could definitely hollow this out and then use less gold. You could bring it down to 10,000 bucks, which is still like about the price of an engagement ring. So probably not the best idea. But you get the point, right? So we can, rather than making this out of gold, we can make it out of plastic. Um, yeah, okay, 43 bucks, that's actually much less than one would typically spend on a necklace. But if you, again, it's all about hollowing things out, using the least amount of material possible, and then you can really create something special. So, and then we can hypothetically order this, and it's exactly like ordering something on Amazon. But beyond this, if you want to look for things that other people have made or just inspiration, you don't have to download a model and then 3D print that. You can actually just go to Shapeways and see what other people have made. So let me see. Explore. Hold up. Okay, shop now. There's a big marketplace here. People have made tanks. People have made pendants, rings. People make weird kinds of art. People make egg holders. The most random things you would ever imagine, but all of it is so cool. But yeah, you can go here. People make memes. You can get yourself 3D printed. If you look, there's a common theme throughout everything here. They're all using very limited amounts of material. This is definitely hollow. Everything here is hollow, but very complex, which is exactly what 3D printing is suited for. So you can make your own models, you can modify models, or you can just buy things that are already made. But you're probably wondering, how the hell did they make something like this out of Tinkercad? Well, as you probably figured, they didn't exactly use Tinkercad. There are other programs you can use, such as Blender, which is like especially good for these kinds of very complex shapes. There's things called, there's Autodesk Inventor. I don't know. They taught that at my high school, so maybe they teach that at the Bronx. and they have, SolidWorks, um, something called Maya. But anyway, you can make very complex things, and I highly recommend you guys check it out if you have time.